Hi, and welcome to my channel. This is Mom Chronicles, and we're going to talk about things kind of woman to woman, mom to mom. Today's topic is going to be on kind of my birth story with the kids. I want to give some wisdom to somebody younger than me, or just a first-time mom. You shouldn't have to be younger than me. I'm going to be 40 next year. I'm going to be 39 later on this year. And I feel like there's a lot of things I've learned along the way. And along the way, I probably didn't have as many opportunities to share those bits of knowledge or those decisions that I regret, kind of telling somebody, hey, this was my experience and maybe you should kind of reconsider that. And this is just an opinion. I'm not a doctor. This is my story. Just a little background on me. I do have epilepsy, so the whole pregnancy was scary. The idea of it for me, it was very scary. And I had a really great OBGYN. They worked with my neurologist, and she was great. She, I had very close together appointments. Like, we had more than you would typically have, just to make sure everything was going good. And my pregnancy was fair, towards the end there, all I really had was a little bit of high blood pressure and some Braxton Hicks. And she was going to be due in January. And I said to my doctor, I said, is there some way, are you going to be the one to deliver the baby at the hospital? Do I call you and have you come in? And she said, no, if you go to the hospital, like in labor, in active labor, it'll be whoever's on call. And I said, okay, well, that's kind of scary because I'd rather you be the one to be there. And she said, well, we can do that if we induce you on one of my days that I'm on call. And you guys, I should not have done that. I had heard about Pitocin being much more painful. And my doctor said, she's like, oh, well, it's not so much painful. It's more painful. It's just you don't get as much time between contractions. They're closer together. And I was like, okay. In my brand new first time mommy brain, that was saying that means that labor won't take as long. It'll progress faster. So, okay, less time laboring, versus an easier time. Okay, maybe that's this for that. And I wish somebody would have told me no, that it was a stupid idea just to do it because my doctor was going to be on call. That was the only reason. I was not in any trouble. The baby wasn't in any trouble. I didn't want her born by a specific day. I'm a very how it happens is how it happens type of person. The only thing was that I really trusted her and I liked her, and I just really wanted her to be the one to bring my baby into the world. So I went along with that. So on January 15th, I got induced, and I have to say, it started 6 o'clock in the morning, and they started the Pitocin, and you start having them pretty quickly, back to back, one right after the other. And within a couple of hours, they come and they break your water to hurry it along. It was horrible. I regret it so much because it made everything worse. I was not ready. My body was not ready. My daughter was not ready to come out. My cervix was not ready. And that was the big problem, my cervix. So, they're coming and checking every few hours, and, I would only dilate 1 centimeter over a span of 4 to 5 hours. And I was doing it naturally because I didn't want an epidural. I wanted to do a natural childbirth, just like most of us, go into it thinking anyway. And the Pitocin, it wasn't, the weird thing was, she was, every time I'd have a contraction, she would pull back up out of my pelvis. It felt like she'd come back up into my rib cage. And it was really weird. I was like, I think she is fighting this. Like, she doesn't want this. She was not ready at all. And so yeah, it was horrible. My mom and my dad and my husband were all holding my hand, taking turns, because it was just pain after the other. Um, each contraction just bam, 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 and nothing happening. No progressing, or very, very slow progressing, if you will. And I didn't do Lamaze because there was no Lamaze classes near me in this part of Tennessee. Nashville was the closest place. It's one of the things that bugged me. They didn't have a whole lot of resources. There was doulas in Nashville. There was midwives in Nashville that I heard about and that I met, but not much here. And so I never did Lamaze. I never learned how to do the breathing. I figured I get the idea of it, trying to breathe your way through the pain, but I was just so pent up and tense, and I couldn't relax. My body was not relaxing. My muscles were not relaxing. I'm crying my eyes out, hollering my eyes out because it hurt so bad. And looking back, like that was the biggest problem, I think, besides the fact that my body wasn't ready. She wasn't ready. That was the biggest problem, was the fact that I was tensing up. And I opted to have the epidural. Now, this is a different story. I had to have it done 3 times because the old catheters that's the only thing they had in stock, kept coming out. And they said it was my fault for moving. And I was like, I did not move. Like, I was like a statue. So that's a whole different story. So I had to have the epidural done 3 times. So back-to-back contractions, and I'm being poked in the back 3 separate times. So horrible part of it. I was in labor for over 24 hours, which is normal, especially for first-time moms. However, after about 27 hours, I was only at 5 centimeters. I was only halfway there, you guys. And once you've had your water broken for 24 hours, they start to worry about infection and the baby. So around hour number 28, we decided with the doctor to go ahead and do a C-section. And it scared me. I was a little bit worried about it. I just, I said my prayers and I tried to, okay, she's got this. She's a great doctor. This is going to be fine. It did worry me. But I wouldn't have had to have a C-section if I wouldn't have, or probably not had to have had a C-section if I wouldn't have been induced, you guys. I can see how it would be necessary if you were having complications, like health complications, or the baby was having complications or problems, or if you were way overdue, past your due date. I could see how the Pitocin, it would be kind of like a last resort, necessary. Mine was not necessary. And if I could tell any woman about to have a baby, is that if induction is not necessary, please don't do it. I'm sure there's plenty of women who have the same story. And that's why I'm telling you, because, if you don't know, and if you're younger and you're going to want to have kids, I feel like the best thing that we can do for each other is information. And at my age that I'm coming to, I feel like there's so many things I could share with you, but I'm not proud of the fact that I didn't do enough research on being induced. I definitely did not. I just trusted my doctor. And I don't get me wrong, I love her. She brought both of my babies into this world by way of C-section, but that's another thing. So the first child you have a C-section, they want you to have a C-section again. Double the money for them. And a lot of people say it's the easy way out. And recovery sucks. And recovery would suck if it was a vaginal delivery as well, because, some women tear, and, some women are really never the same down there again. And, I'm, that's practically untouched, 2 kids, just both C-sections. So yeah, I have a scar, and I have scar tissue on the inside, which is starting to become a problem, I think. But I don't look at it as the easy way out as far as that recovery, because that was hard. Having your nerve endings try to find each other again across that opening, and it being like fire. Uh, very terrible feeling. It feels like it's being ripped apart every time you move, every time you walk, cough, laugh, pee, whatever, pick up your baby. So it's definitely not an easy way out. Now, the second child, born 18 months after my first, that was easy. We went in, it was scheduled, my C-section. They gave me a shot in the back, no catheters, no epidural catheters, and none of that. It was just, you're done. Like, okay, so much faster. Recovery was a lot easier being at my second child. My body remembered, okay, this is what we do now. It was way easier, not painless. Obviously, my body still had to do that again. The nerve endings finding each other, and I still have a lot of numbness in my lower abdomen, on the skin, I mean. And I still would have preferred to do it naturally. I still would have preferred, like, I don't remember probably the first 6 hours of my daughter's life because I was in and out of it. I was just sleeping, which thankfully at that time my family was allowed in, and my family was there holding my daughter, which can go this way or that way. I'll tell you all about that in a different one. But so at least I was conking out, and my family at least was loving on her and you know, and stuff. And me and her got to bond later. You know, I breastfed them for 14 months each. So we had our bonding time. So I wasn't worried about, you know, that kind of first contact, because we had so much more time to bond. And, you know, there's a lot of things you go into it thinking this is the way it's got to be. And you have to remember just to change your plan if it's got to be done. But don't necessarily change your plan for something stupid and trivial. Because I really regret the Pitocin. That was horrible. That was just, there was no breaks. There was no breathing for a little bit and getting ready for the next one. You see it in movies, or you see it in, you know, videos of somebody actually giving birth. And I was literally like this the whole time, screaming my head off. Well, not screaming, but hollering and crying and yelling and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't want to be a nuisance to the nurses or the doctors or anything. So I don't even know if they would have let me get up and walk around, since I was a fall risk, being that I have a history of epilepsy. It's controlled now, but it's still a history. So I don't even know if they would have let me bounce on a bouncy ball to help it move along, or to get up and walk around, to have gravity help out. So in my case, and maybe in other people's cases too, it was a very bad idea. And I probably would have had more kids instead of getting my tubes tied after the second one, because I didn't want to have surgery after surgery after surgery, because it's a lot, and I'm getting older. And you know, I was 33 when she was born. I was almost 35 when my son was born. So I was like, I don't think my body can do this for that much longer. So I probably would have had more kids if they were natural. I would have had a lot of things a little bit different. But all in all, my kids are here. They're healthy. In some ways I'm healthy, and a ton of ways I'm not. But that's just my body. That's not anyone else's fault. But I'm just saying, like, looking back on it, it's a big regret, because things could have gone so much more different if somebody would have just sat me down and said, hey, this is a bad idea. So that's what I'm doing for you. Like, unless there's a reason, health, due date, you're way past it, you know, I think it would be more than enough reason to go ahead and be induced. But if you're fine and you're just going along your pregnancy, don't try to hurry it up, because your body is ready when it's ready. And mine was not, and she was not, and it really sucked. So just a little bit of my wisdom to you. I want to do this a little bit on the channel, share little tidbits and things, maybe even recipes. So thanks all for watching. I hope you like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you next time when I share some other goofy moment. horror story. All right, have a good night.